So a big game at the top of the Bundesliga as Bayern Munich host Borussia Dortmund. Der Klassiker, 9-point gap between these two sides. Bayern leading the way as we expect in this league. And the question is really, for Borussia Dortmund fans, for fans around the world, around Europe, will that gap ever close, or will Bayern just run away with it every single year? What do you think?
Well, if they win this game, of course, that'll be 10 in a row, which has not really been done in the top leagues. Juventus with 9 very recently, of course. I think, do you know what? I was looking at this. I was looking at Bayern Munich, and actually there's a lot of grumblings with Bayern Munich fans about the squad, the setup of the squad, where the wages are going. And often with teams, there is that moment of kind of evolution where players have to sort of make way and move on. And so for Bayern Munich and Dortmund to kind of meet in the middle a little bit, Dortmund need a bit of a rebuild. If you look at the amount of injuries that they consistently have, with the amount of players in the past that have got injured in the past as well, people like Pulisic, Haaland often getting injured as well. Even go further back, Mario Götze and Schürrle always having these injury problems. And even going into this game, the injury problems we can talk about a bit later on in this video are horrific for Borussia Dortmund. And that's something that I think needs to get sorted out. But their first team is very, very good. And the Bayern Munich side, people like Müller on his way out, possibly sooner or later. Lewandowski, so much talk about him, and that's a lot of goals you're going to be losing. You kind of need both of these two powerhouses in the Bundesliga to sort of move towards each other a little bit. So I think at the moment it feels like there's a huge gap, but actually I think if with a few moves and actually the lack of power maybe that Bayern Munich have these days in the transfer window globally, actually they're maybe not as far away from each other as you would think. What do you think about this one, Hugh? Do you agree with that?
There are boring answers, I think, to this question. If you look at Borussia Dortmund, 2020 revenue down 12%. We know what's been going on in the world, down 8% last year. There haven't been big transfers for either side either. When I say big transfers, yes, in terms of the grand scheme of things, money has been spent, but not to compete with the absolute best clubs in Europe. I think Upamecano, 38 million, was the biggest transfer for Bayern. Marlon, 27 million, the biggest transfer for Borussia Dortmund in the last summer transfer window. Now, when you compare that to some of the big clubs in the Premier League, in Spain, the money that's being spent is different. That has left the Bundesliga a little bit behind. Of course, we know it's a fantastic league, and we know, and this is the big one, the outlook on football that Germany has, the self-sufficient model that Germany has. These clubs are managing their way through a difficult financial period. Like I said, it's a boring answer, but they're just not going to be able to spend that big money that puts them on that high level of European football. And I include Bayern in that. I think in terms of the individual league itself, Borussia Dortmund can bridge that gap. They just have lots of young, inexperienced players. They will grow into the league. They will grow into their careers, their stature, their bodies. They will become more experienced and better players. And I think they have set themselves up for the long term. Even if they sell some of those great young players, Jadon Sancho's gone already, Erling Haaland about to move as well. Who knows what's going to happen with Jude Bellingham? They have invested wisely in more young talent who can maybe stay at the club in the future and provide them with more trophies. So if I was a Dortmund fan, I'd be happy with how things are, despite the fact, once again, they're likely to miss out on the title.
The question will always be with these kind of players when they come through and do well at Dortmund, and it is their model. What happens? When do they go, and will they go, and how much will they go for? Obviously, so much discussion over Haaland, and that's something that needs to get concluded, and will actually, I think, will help Dortmund somewhat. Once it's kind of done and dusted, they can move forward and start to find the next new thing and bring him through. But with Jude Bellingham, what's the deal with him this summer? He's got a contract till 2025. Do you think that this is the summer that he should also look to make that move, or do you think he should stay where he is? And if you were thinking that he should move, who do you think are the possible suitors?
Well, it's a really interesting one with Jude Bellingham. So far, he, supported by his parents, have made very clever decisions about his career. They turned down Manchester United at a time the club was in massive turmoil. Now, for any English player, especially at his age, playing for Birmingham City in the second tier in England, that must have been a massive decision. But he's made the right step, in my opinion, by going to the Bundesliga, where he gets plenty of game time. It's a club with a proven track record of developing young players, and he has developed. And I think he will continue to develop if he stays at Borussia Dortmund. You have to think about one of these big moves if he goes to a huge club. there is a higher level of intensity. There is a higher level of scrutiny. There is less room for error. And ultimately, there are some very good coaches, but he might find himself not involved in the regular starting team every week. I think Dortmund have been in the mode of, and they've said this before, they will sell one of their big stars each summer. That summer, this summer, it seems like it's going to be Erling Haaland. So it looks like Jude Bellingham, unless there is a huge bid, and a huge bid, that Jude Bellingham will be staying at the club. And I think that's the best thing for him.
I guess the one thing I would say is, for someone who's obviously got the ambition that he has, I think he will get minutes wherever he would go. And when I say wherever he would go, the two teams that I look at, and again, if you're being sensible, you don't go to Manchester United, but there is a position there in that 8 role that Ten Hag will want. If you look at Gravenberch at Ajax, he could play a similar role to that. The other option is a place like Liverpool. I think that would work in terms of his energy and work rate. I actually feel like he would be not wasted there, but I think when you've got people like Thiago, Fabinho sitting there, it's in that other role, that Keita or that Henderson role. Would he still be kind of facilitating someone like Trent? Would you actually allow Jude Bellingham to be Jude Bellingham if he went to someone like Liverpool? I don't know. That's one for the comments, guys. But I think you're possibly right. It's what the sensible choice is, to stay put for another year.
So looking ahead to the game, Bayern against Dortmund, it possibly is a difficult one to call because you don't know which Borussia Dortmund you're going to get. A huge win last time out, but they've only won 5 of their last 10 matches, which underlines their inconsistency. How do you think they'll go into this?
I think that the thing I keep looking at is, well, first of all, away from home against Bayern Munich. Second of all, Bayern Munich obviously wanted to go and win the title. Thirdly, the fact that they've won the last 7. It's the longest stretch out of this game between these two. All of those put together makes it very, very difficult for me. And then you add the fact that the injuries are just so vast. You know, Dahoud, Hummels, Marlon, Meunier, Morey, Gio Reyna, Schmelzer, so Guerrero as well as a doubt. So many players missing that I just find it very, very difficult to see them getting something from this. That said, there's still quality on the pitch. Michael Royce, of course, Haaland, of course, Jude Bellingham, as we've spoken about. I just think it's going to be a bit too much of an ask against this Bayern Munich side, who will give you a chance. They will give you a chance. You will have that opportunity to score goals. So it might be one where it's a little bit about game state, but this only goes one way, if I'm honest. I think there'll be goals, but I think there'll be more goals for Bayern Munich, and I think they'll get the job done. They'll win the title. And even if they don't, the title is coming sooner or later. The next 3 games after this will be against mid-table sides or lower in the table sides. So I think that the title is inevitable. Maybe they'll be able to have a stay of execution, but I actually think they'll get it done this weekend. How do you feel it will go, Hugh?
I only see one winner. And I actually think there'll be a healthy amount of goals scored, unfortunately for Borussia Dortmund fans, by Bayern in this game. So I'm going to go 4-1 to Bayern.
Hi guys, James Allcott here from ESPN's Football Forecast. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and you want to check out more, make sure you subscribe to ESPN UK.